Perfect. Chris, if you want to get us started, we can
Sure.
we can kind of go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the spring meeting of our Special Interest Group for Exercise Science Education. It's great to see a healthy number of people who have showed up to the meeting today. So we hope that you get a lot out of our time. We've been talking for a long time about having sort of a faculty lounge and having a roundtable meeting where we talk about some of the problems that we see in the classroom and in the lab. And so we decided to go ahead and put that together for our spring meeting. And so we have an agenda and we have some topics that we would like to crystallize around, but I do think that by the time the hour is up, we'll have a little bit of time for us to just discuss things as faculty members, things that we've seen in the classroom and in the lab that really stymie us as exercise science educators. And so so glad that you could make it. We've got a couple of announcements to make before we get started. So Jonathan, if you want to go to that next slide. I wanted to remind everybody on the call that we've been approached by the ACSM's Communications and Media Division. There is the ACSM faculty newsletter that gets published on a regular basis, and we think that we would make a really good partnership with the newsletter, providing content and ideas for that faculty newsletter to be published. And so if you've got anything that you think involves the teaching of exercise science education, that you think it's a faculty issue as opposed to, more of a research issue, let me know, and I can put you in touch with our coordinator at ACSM, and we can run a story on that. And if you've got anything that's newsworthy, a class that you're teaching or something that you'd like to advertise to the greater community, ACSM and interest group alike, let me know and we can put that in the newsletter. So look for that in your email inbox sometime soon. We also have a website. And if I remember correctly, when I joined this organization, maybe 10 years ago now, it was pretty robust. It was set up so that we had resources available, a URL that if you were interested in meeting notes from meetings like this, or if there was some teaching strategy that we had discussed in our meeting in person, that all of that was gathered on the website. And we kind of lost track of it. I think COVID probably caused us to kind of lost track of it, but the URL is still active. And so if you're interested in us maintaining that website, let me know. Send me an email and we can revive that. The reason why I hedge a little bit is because it does take it takes a designated person to maintain that website. And if it's not getting a lot of traffic and people have forgotten about it and we just don't care about it anymore, we'd prefer to use social media instead. That's fine, but we're going to want to sunset that because I think we have to I don't think we have to pay for it, but I think we have to get permission from the university where it resides, and we're going to have to make some decision about what to do about that. So let me know if you missed the website, we can reinstate it, or if you think social media works out just as well, we can go that direction. We are going to elect a new co-chair at the annual meeting. Deadline for nominations is my birthday, the 14th of May. And that's fitting because I'm the most senior co-chair here, and it would be my obligation to rotate off. Jonathan, do you want to talk about this? Because I think you're a little bit closer to the process than I am. You want to
Yeah,
mention
happy to
anything
talk
about
about it.
that?
Yeah, so we for unfortunately Chris is rolling off or can roll off this year. Maybe he wants to leave us, and we are looking for people to kind of replace Chris this year as part of our co-chair group with their SIG. The deadline for that is May 14th, and that can be a self-nomination or nominating someone else. If you're nominating someone else, I do ask that you talk with that person first and make sure they're kind of interested in serving. And it's pretty simple. If you're interested or know someone that you would like to nominate, just send me an email at jhoward@highlands.edu. I'm just asking for some simple things like name, school, slash position, a recent photo that we can use, and then a paragraph on kind of why you want to serve. And that will allow us to make some slides for our annual meeting to be able to present to people and allow them to learn some information about you and or whoever you're nominating so that people can vote. And if you're at the annual meeting, usually we allow people to stand up and say a couple words if they would like to, if you're there. But if you're not, this kind of paragraph helps people to learn a little bit about you. With the way we kind of have structured our co-chairs, as you roll on, we want to give people an idea of what their kind of responsibility would be. And so Chris has taken a very integral, great part in managing our Innovation and Teaching Award. And so we're looking for someone to kind of take over that role, someone who would like to kind of set that up, help with the review process, the call for kind of submissions, and kind of walk through that process is really what we're looking at. So if that's something you're interested in, have a lot of experience in, we would love to have you kind of work with our SIG group, because everyone usually takes on an equal load and kind of works in their specialty. And that's kind of what we're looking for at this particular call.
Thanks, Jonathan. For everybody else, we just discovered that there's a big learning curve to what we do as co-chairs. And so what we decided to do a couple years ago now, I guess we've been doing this for a while, is that we decided that we're just going to divide the labor. And so the new co-chair would take over that former co-chair's responsibilities, just to minimize the learning curve, because there's actually a few things to do. And I think we put all 3 and 4 co-chairs to work very diligently. So it'd be Walters Kluwer Innovation and Teaching Award. I've done that for the last 2 years. I'm more than happy to pass that baton to anybody else who wants to take that responsibility. I will add too that we're going to meet in person in Atlanta for our annual meeting. It's going to be on Thursday, the 29th of May. And 5:45 to 7:15. I want to give a shout out to ACSM leadership, because we had a leadership meeting on this subject a little less than a year ago after Boston. And we wanted these scheduled as soon as possible, because we know that people have travel plans and budgets and things like that with professional development. So they were real good about getting this to us. I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I found out the date and the time. So mark your calendars now, because this is official. Thursday, the 29th of May, 5:45 to 7:15. I think there are going to be 2 nights of special interest groups. And so if you've got multiple interests, be sure to come to our meeting, and you'll be able to come to, maybe 1 or 2 other ones, depending upon how you set things up. We do have a promise of sponsorship from Walters Kluwer. They're going to provide us some refreshments. And so, that's when I would be kind of hungry for dinner at the end of the day. So we should have something available for you to eat. And so you plan it well. You might not necessarily have the expenses of going out to a meal that night. We have a new website along with our new branding. If you would like to become a member of the special interest group, we are encouraging you now to go through the ACSM website, and I can provide you with instructions, but it's pretty straightforward. You can join our special interest group there. And that's important that you do that, because by joining our interest group there, all of your information for email and identity populates in the ACSM system, and we can more, I think, confidentially manage that information, so that we know who is in the interest group, so that when we have a meeting like this, our spring meeting today, we can get those notices out to you specifically. We don't send a lot of email out, so it's not a lot of stuff that you're going to get from us, but we do like to know who our membership is. And so if you go through the ACSM website, join, we'll be able to get that information literally every time we ask Heather for a download on our roster. And finally, we've got a really active social media page. I don't necessarily have any news about this or any updates, but if Jonathan or Raquel want to talk about that, I don't think I have anything, except that it's a good site, Facebook site.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we have is just kind of look at those social medias, Facebook, things like that. It's a great place to talk without having to burn through email, ask questions. That site is very active on Facebook. And if you ever have updates that you would like us to help with that, please let us know. We're happy to kind of help facilitate, but it's an open kind of group where you can post things, job postings, anything like that.
A handy thing for me to do, if I can, I'll take a minute here. I will put the URL for our webpage in the chat, and then I think I should have a connection with social media. I'll put those in the chat, and if you want to make a comparison and make your decision about, do you like the web page? Do you like social media? We can go that way. But if I can take a minute here, I'll put those URLs in so you can find that stuff. Those are our announcements. And then again, the theme today is challenges in the classroom. And so we thought a roundtable style discussion would be really good. Please unmute yourself in order to talk. Add any comments in the chat. I've got my chat screen pulled up, and so we're going to watch that as well. And I've got this bulletin point here. Let's not be like our students. Oh no. What did we mean by that?
Yeah, so with that, we all know how it is running these meetings. Everyone sits there quiet and doesn't want to talk. So we want the engagement, right? We don't want to sit there for the next 40 minutes of silence and let the co-chairs kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about. We want to hear from you, and I think everyone else on this meeting wants to hear from each other. So let's not be like our students, or at least my students never want to unmute themselves. Maybe y'all have better students than I do.
So we'll focus on what you liked, what worked, maybe what didn't work to give some ideas for your colleagues, what you might need help with, any resources or that you use or ones that you're looking for. And we're going to crystallize this around 3 topics to guide our conversation. So it's not limited to that. If we go on tangents, okay, don't be like your students. Don't be like your professors like me. I tend to go on tangents. And so we'll just let the conversation flow naturally. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So hopefully this will work out well today. Looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say. So I think we've got our first topic on the next slide. Here we go. Okay, so a question put to all of you. What should students be getting out of anatomy and physiology courses as it pertains to exercise science? And if you don't mind me saying so, I've been in kinesiology programs where we have not had a very good relationship with the biology program that teaches the anatomy and physiology, and they come into my exercise physiology class or they take biomechanics from one of my colleagues, and inexplicably, they don't seem to know what they need to know. And is this a matter of instruction? Is it reinforcement? Is it our job to include more of this basic A&P in the courses that we teach? And what I've settled on is the inclusion of some enrichment work that I give them credit for in exercise physiology. But we thought we would start with this one. What should the student be getting out of A&P? What's your experience been with their preparation for exercise physiology, biomechanics, motor control? And if anybody wants to get started with this, I'd love to hear.
Hi, this is Kathy Carter. I am at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. We recently took our students to the Cleveland Cavaliers Exercise Science Day, and they had their athletic trainer, a physical therapist, and their strength and conditioning coach talking. And every one of them said, "You have got to know anatomy and physiology. Cold. You just have to." So, I mean, I don't know if we can actually say what we need them to know. They need to know anatomy and physiology.
Um, Hi, Dr. Harper from Mount St. Mary College. Um, I've taught anatomy and physiology for 40 years, close to 40 years, and to a variety of groups. And here at Mount St. Mary, our students take anatomy and physiology with the pre-nursing students as well as with our pre-bio PT students. And I agree. I think that one of the things that they really get out of taking anatomy and physiology is study skills. Without those study skills, they're not going to be able to move forward. I have some students who we also require a biology, and I like to get them to do the bio before the A&P because then they have at least a step up. We're not seeing that really right now. I think that what we're finding is a lot of students don't want to do the work, and it really shows in exercise physiology. I had some seniors in exercise physiology last year, and I was somewhat appalled as to how little they retained from one to the other. So I think it's skill building. It's an understanding of the totality of the body, and it's not all about just exercise. And when we move into things like exercise as medicine, I think that is when it starts to click that, it's not just about bones and muscle. So that's my take, that I think it's important. I think it's okay if it's through a bio program or a pre-nursing program. A&P is A&P. I think kines and exercise phys reinforce those skills in the exercise world.
Amber Schlitt from Stephen F. Austin. I love this question because we were actually just talking about this here. I teach the exercise physiology course, and anatomy is a prereq for that. But I found out this semester we've been in practice doing substitutions for our physical education students. They take a freshman level biology and that somehow counts. And so we were talking about the advantages of taking it versus non-taking it. I think what I've observed is that if they take the anatomy closer to the exercise physiology, it relates more and they retain more. The further away those are, if they took anatomy first semester freshman and they don't take ex-phys till second semester junior year, there's a disconnect there. And the other struggle I have related to the first comment is convincing my coaches and physical educators that this is something they need to know. I try to bring up relevant examples of if you know this and you know how these things work together, that affects how you train. But if any other people have resources or examples that I can share with my students of why do they need to know anatomy, that would be helpful.
Hey, this is Adam Levis. I'm a professor at the University of West Florida, way down here in the Panhandle. I appreciate what everyone said so far about the significance of knowing A&P. And I don't have specific resources, Amber, to address your question, but I do want to ask you guys, yes, it's important, but this past semester we focused on, like for A&P1, just looking at skeletal tissue and muscles, because we know that's a very kinese-based focus. But my concern with that is, and I want to question you guys about that, is if we do that, it's almost like it's too much focus on those, or there's not that much material to cover in A&P1. Then when they take A&P2, it's just jam-packed with every other organ system that we have to worry about. And so it's almost too much information. And as we all know, most of our students may go on to pre-professional programs and need other things like extra A&P or other advanced courses that require good grades in both A&P1 and A&P2. And so I also just want to throw out there what y'all's thoughts were on trying to make it equal for A&P1 versus A&P2, or just focusing on the kinese subjects, if you will, of A&P, and what you think about that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie Needham. I'm a professor at Salt Lake Community College here in Utah. And Adam, that's a great question. And I wonder if including the nervous system in with skeletal and muscle tissue might be appropriate, because I feel like that has good application for exercise physiology, kinesiology studies as well. And then I just want to throw out one other thing, because I'm at a community college. Our programs look a little bit different. We have two degrees in our Department of Exercise Science. One is Exercise Science Associates of Science that goes on to 4-year courses. So they usually take anatomy and physiology at the community college. And then when they move on to their 4-year institution, that's where they take exercise physiology. We have another program that is it's called fitness technician. So preparing students to be in industry, personal trainers, fitness specialists, and they take exercise physiology, and anatomy and physiology are not required. They're not prerequisites for that course, just so that we can keep it at a 2-year degree. And so I also get students coming in taking my exercise physiology class for prereqs for PT, OT. And so I have a lot of different levels of understanding of anatomy and physiology in my class. And Chris, you mentioned that you have some kind of foundational work that you have students do if they need it coming into exercise physiology. So I'd be really interested in hearing a little bit more about what that looks like to kind of get my students on the same level.
You want to?
Hey, everyone. Douglas Gregory at Tennessee Wesleyan University in Athens, Tennessee. And so this may be kind of off base, but I tend to think now, like, part of this question is, what do we want them to learn from exercise physiology and other exercise science related courses? And how does that relate back to what they're learning in anatomy and physiology? And so, and again, this just is the way my mind is working, is I'm really struggling with what I want all my undergraduates to really come out of an exercise physiology class, because that's the class that I have control over, because our anatomy and physiology is taught through biology. And so, I mean, my first question is, what do I want them to know leaving an undergraduate exercise science program from an exercise physiology standpoint. And then I liked the idea of incorporating, and I've been considering doing this summer when I redo the class, but basically incorporating that A&P review in my ex-phys class prior to going over the topics and everything. So I'd be interested. I forget who said that they might be doing that right now, and incorporating stuff like that for credit to make them want to actually do that A&P review before we talk about other topics in ex-phys.
I have a comment, Doug, kind of piggybacking on what you said about review. So the idea of reviewing for A&P, and I'm Julie Marino from UNC Charlotte. We have the luxury of teaching our A&P sequence in our department. So it's a kinesiology based A&P course, but I do serve exercise science and nursing students. So we have to cover everything in A&P. Like Adam was saying, you know, if you're serving different students, you have to include everything, not just maybe the exercise science heavy areas. But we recognize that our students were struggling even in our A&P that we have control over. And so we actually went in a different direction, and we looked at how prepared they were coming into A&P. They didn't have any prerequisites before they took A&P. And it's hard for us to add a course like biology because of the number of students that we have. I need them to accommodate a large number of students. So we're piloting our own introduction to anatomy and physiology course. We're in our third semester of offering this, and it's been a game changer. So we don't yet require it because we're trying to collect some data on its effectiveness, but we basically pulled out some of the things that you would have in principles of biology, maybe in fundamentals of chemistry, along with study skills, and combine them all into this 3-credit-hour course. And the grade data is suggesting that we'll be able to, you know, that I would like to make it a prerequisite or maybe an either or prerequisite, but we really started focusing on if they haven't had any biology or A&P experience, do we need to prepare them before they really get into the faster paced, more dense course? So it's been really effective. Happy to share any of the materials that we've been using.
Juliana, I really like that idea because in our program, we're mixed bio and exercise science, but we have a lot of pre-nursing, and I think something like that would even be that's our biggest question with our nursing students. How are we going to get them through? And we talk over and over again about doing something before A&P. And I think having something like the Intro to Anatomy Physiology 3-credit is a great idea, and I'm going to pass it along. Thank you.
And I should just say, I recognize that there are a couple questions about like, when are students taking this? So it's difficult to add a prerequisite to a course, right? Especially in our majors that are very much sequenced. So if I add a prereq, then the student perception is that, oh, well, now I'm a semester behind, or you're adding another step in the process. So our goal is to maybe do an either or prerequisite. So maybe principles of bio or a chemistry or our intro to A&P, or maybe there's a placement test. And if students pass a placement test and they have enough background, they don't have to add the course, but it's there for students. We're also piloting a second half semester 8-week course, which has picked up a lot of students who withdraw from A&P. I don't know about you all, but a lot of my students wind up withdrawing about halfway through, and now they have an opportunity to move into a second half remediation course so they can get stronger before they revisit and retake A&P. So we're picking up a lot of students that way.
I think Christopher or Chris, your hand was up next.
I'm going to defer to Donald, and then I'll ask my question next.
I'm Don Duvall from Fresno Pacific University in California, and I like what everybody's been saying, and what this might be a little bit different approach to what several of you are saying, but I think a key to this, in terms especially what we want the students to get out of anatomy and physiology to carry into exercise physiology, is they need repetition. So seeing it and dealing with the information numerous times, and the analogy that came to mind to me some time ago was, we have a lot of student athletes in our courses. How they practice, they do many repetitions of what they're doing. Even if they get the performance down their coach may look at them and said, that was great, do it again. So it's the repetition that I think is really important. So the idea of maybe an introductory course to before they get to the advanced course, the other point that was made about not having too much time between when they take anatomy, physiology, and exercise physiology, closing that gap so then you can get to the repetition sooner. And then, like Chris had indicated, doing some content within his class that is the repetition to lead into the points of what you want to cover specifically. So I think repetition and making sure we try to build that in so there's consistent application of the content throughout the courses and what you're trying to learn.
Juliana, my question had to do with the specificity of the course. I'm going to ask this to everybody too. Are you saying that, for example, your students who take biomechanics and exercise physiology, this is the prerequisite course for that to prepare them for the A&P demands of those courses? Is that what this is?
So our intro to A&P would be that that first exposure to anatomy and physiology. So
Okay.
cells, tissues, organ
Okay.
systems, homeostasis.
Okay.
It's a prereq for A&P. A&P is a prereq for RX Phys, and so forth. So
okay.
it would be a bit earlier, but it would be that like first touch.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking this is because one of the frustrations that I've seen at other universities is that we'll get frustrated at kinesiology and we'll say that's it. We're gonna teach A&P in-house, and it's gonna be kinesiology prefix, and you're gonna take it here. But then we run into snags with programs like in physical therapy and some of the professional programs who say, oh no, it has to be a biology department course. Kinesiology A&P does not count. And I'm curious as to whether or not you've had that problem, or if other people have had that problem as well. For students who want to go to graduate school and they see that the kinesiology prefix is where the A&P came from. I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely run into that with some students, and some graduate programs can be very strict on that. And I think it comes from the idea that sometimes when A&P moved into physical education side to help kind of K-12 students move forward, that it was less rigorous or maybe didn't have a lab attached. And so I've seen that come from some for sure. Tamara, do you want to go ahead?
Oh yeah, Tamara Hunt, Georgia Southern University. So yeah, we're dealing with that right now. So we had previously taught A&P through Kines. We also teach it in bio. So we had an A&P class in both bio and kinesiology. And recently our biology department has said they don't want to teach it anymore. And so we have adopted every A&P course within our university. But in doing so, we then also changed the prefix to bio. So like we are teaching in-house as kinesiology HSK, but it is now a bio prefix. And it's because our university has recently aligned with our med school. And so there are concerns that, just like you said, going into other colleges or into med schools and other degrees, they want to see that bio prefix. But I can tell you, I'm in the Southeast Georgia, right? And like in the Southeast region, our med schools don't care. They don't care what it is as long as the curriculum is very consistent with what they need as a prereq. So as long as you have your syllabus and things like that, they'll accept it regardless of what the prefix is and where it's coming from.
Awesome. I think this is some good conversation that we're having on this, and I think some of the things we're hearing is kind of there's study and management skills we want them to get out of it. There's repetition and basic knowledge, trying to learn just how things operate, at least at a base level, and that's really important for review later on. And there's a lot of ways that can go across depending on how your institution works. And so I think. I think it's kind of individual and hard to say, but I like where the conversation's going. And what I will say is, if anyone has resources they want to share, if you want to email me those at jhoward@highlands.edu, and just let me know kind of webinar, SIG webinar in the subject line. I'm happy to put together those in a Word document. So when we send out this recording, those things are available instead of you having to send it out to a lot of people at one time. That's one thing that I'm happy to do and did in our last meeting from our guest speakers. So with that, we can always circle back around to this. I'm happy to. If someone has a last minute comment, please go ahead and put your hand up. But for just kind of keeping us moving forward and keeping topics, I'm going to kind of move us to our next topic. So our next topic is talking about AI. So there's a lot of discussion about that. We had a lot of people kind of throwing emails at us, kind of wanting to hear about how are you using AI in your classes? What are the pros, the cons, the challenges that you're being faced with AI? And just to kind of get us started, I'll let everyone know that I use AI specifically in my exercise prescription course. It's an exercise testing and prescription course. And I have them design a 2-week, 3-week workout for a specific individual using AI. I tell them to go find one. I don't care which one. And then what they have to do in a discussion post, because a fully online class, is they have to critique that. And then their colleagues have to come, or their other students come along and critique it more. So we're saying like, you're probably going to use this, and I know you're going to use it anyways, because it's pretty obvious when, you're designing prescription plans. But let's have them use this tool and then critique it and have to go back and look at some of the knowledge things they were taught in class. But that can be challenging because are they just getting the responses to critique it from AI, things like that? And so those are some of the things that I'm running into and just trying to test it out and see what happens. But I'm currently encouraging them to use it because I think they're going to anyway. So why not try to jump in front of it? But I'd love to hear what other people have to say. Go ahead, Amber.
I just was gonna clarify, or so you're asking students to ask AI to create a program and that's what they're evaluating?
Yeah, so they're evaluating what AI created, and they can give it as many or as few prompts as they want, and hopefully they're going to then critique it. And so it's more of my assumption is they can always start somewhere and create, and we always in that prescription class are trying to develop more. And so I'm just giving them a base to start from instead of creating from scratch, because most of my students honestly always said that they copied something somewhere, something they did in high school or whatever, and built from it anyways. And so it's just a different starting point.
So I feel like I've heard before that somebody's using AI to act like you're a person with such and such and they interview it. Have you heard of that, or does anybody use that before?
I have not personally used that as a way to do it. Maybe someone will chime in along the way. Carrie, do you have a comment towards that or a different kind of comment related to this?
A different comment, but I have heard of people using AI for interviewing. I haven't used it myself, but I've thought about it. So I'd love to hear if anybody's had success with that. One way that I'm using it, I tried first last semester, a little bit this semester, is in my exercise physiology class. I have them find articles on a topic research articles on a topic that they're interested in. And I've been doing this for several years and have them summarize the articles. And this in the fall, I started having them have AI summarize the article, and then they give a critique of that and then summarize the article on their own in their own words, which has been a little bit useful. I think I need to play around with it a little bit, but I agree, Jonathan, that they're going to use it anyways, and it's likely that they'll have to use it in jobs. And so I feel like, not having it be the white elephant in the room is, better than trying to tell them not to use it at all.
Hi, I'm Lindsay from Hardin-Simmons University in Texas, and I've used AI. I did a basic intro nutrition class, and then some of my other classes I've used it, but I had them use AI after we calculated estimated energy requirements, and then I said, okay, go into AI and ask it to generate one day's meal with the calories that you calculated, and then it generates that. And then part of what I do is I try to challenge them to say, okay, Now you can use this, but what if your client says, well, I don't want to eat yogurt, right? So again, asking them to critique what AI is spitting out and then looking at it from, because, it generates this one page of information, and then pulling all of that out and then looking at it and then seeing kind of, what AI is doing. So then they can specifically maybe look at how they could change that. Also on the research articles, because I think they are going to use it, like all of us probably know, is do a summary. And then a lot of times what I try to do is make my questions very personable to what they're doing. So if they're personal training or they're coaching, it's like, yes, it's summarized this article. Now, how are you going to take this information that AI has given you and apply it to the scenario, and trying to help them critically think through what it's spitting out? I mean, those are just tools. I've got a lot to learn in AI, but I think I've got to learn how to use it effectively.
I would echo what others have said. I have an exercise prescription assignment where they used to write their own, and I got so sick of it clearly being AI that I said, ask ChatGPT to write a program and then critique it. The other thing I've started doing is when I have assignments that I know are pretty commonly at least tempting for AI, is I will tell them how ChatGPT can screw it up. So when they do an annotated bibliography, I tell them ChatGPT will make up references. I check every single one, I will find them. We just had an assignment where they had to find activities in the compendium. ChatGPT will make up codes that are not actually in the compendium. And as soon as I tell them that, the issues seem to go away, because they then know that it could look right to them, but I will know that it's not real. So I had one class where I kind of scared them on the bibliography and I didn't have any issues. An online class where I didn't give them that lecture and I had a bunch of issues.
Hey guys, I'm not that well versed in AI to be honest, but I was just curious if you have an assignment where you use that technology, can you then ask the same tech to critique what they just wrote? So are you just kind of reinventing the problem, or will it not do that?
Oh, it'll 100% critique what they just wrote, and it'll point out problems. You do have to give it a little bit more prompting in that and kind of ask it like which specific problem you're looking at, but most of them will, or you just throw it into another AI system and it'll critique that AI system's uh, thing. So it is pushing the problem to some extent. Again, personally, I've don't have an AI policy in my class at all. I say, but it's going to be obvious. Just one example, I had students at the end of the fall semester. I think it was 5 different students all used AI to write me an email about extra credit because they were all worded exactly the same in this very sophisticated language that I've never seen a student use, begging me for extra credit. And so screenshotted those, took names out. And so I'm showing students of what this does and then trying to show them how, trying to give them the tools to say like, look, I use AI a ton in all of my work now, but at the same time, like I have to have enough knowledge to be able to use it. So it's a starting point for anything, and then go and edit and use your knowledge and look at those references, because it will throw you DOI links that don't work, even though it thinks they do, and give you erroneous data, and trying to teach them how to make it more time efficient for them. But it definitely can push a problem if that's what they're wanting to do. Does anyone's school have like an official AI policy that says you can or can't use it, or kind of directing you? Because I'm starting to get that at my college, that they're trying to make a college-wide AI policy, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like, and curious if any other colleges have that.
We currently have a committee in the process that is exploring that option, how it can be used, what type of policy we need to put in place, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll have an idea of something from a policy standpoint, for both faculty and students.
We don't have an exact policy, but we do have a statement that we can use in our syllabi, just addressing AI and plagiarism, student code of conduct. But I don't think it's an official policy.
Yeah, we have just the leeway to do it ourselves. So they leave a place for it in the syllabus, but then you can put your own personal policy in. So we don't have a set school policy. I do have another comment. I use something, I don't know if anybody's used Notebook LM, but it's kind of a summary tool for articles, PDFs, but it also makes podcast. So in trying to get students to listen to lectures that I've recorded, I actually uploaded it to Notebook LM and it creates a podcast. So it creates this podcast of two people talking, and it just gives them a different way to hear that same information. It also can summarize it and make a quiz out of it, right? So anything that I upload in terms of a lecture format. And some students appreciate it. Right?
Go ahead, Amber.
Hey, I just remembered in my biomechanics class, I have students do a research project every semester, and they'll in the fall and then the last spring, I had two groups that chose to do an AI project. And what I did is I gave them some data and asked them to ask 3 different AI applications to analyze it and decide which one was better or worse, or identify whether one was male or female. And then they kind of summarize what was AI able to do, which one was better. And also, like, the first group ended up more, because it was the first time we did it, figuring out the best way to ask the question to get AI to actually respond. And then the second group, the next semester, was better able to ask the question and actually got to analyze which one came out better. So
Awesome. Sarah?
I really appreciate the idea about the podcast. I had not tried that because I just needed to hear someone else say that it worked in their class. So I really appreciate that. But you had also mentioned generating quiz questions, and that's something that I found and coaching the students on how to do that. They have to have some kind of foundational knowledge to know this truly is the correct answer or not. But in classes like research methods, talking about statistics, students have noted a lot of anxiety over, like, I'm not sure how to answer a question. And I've taught them the last semester or two, these are the types of questions that I would ask. Let's generate some additional ones. And they seem to really like that. And then tools that allow them to better find articles in addition to having those search skills. We just did lit maps in class, and it starts to connect for students this citation with other citations. And that seems to be, I think they like it because they're told they get to use AI, which I know doesn't happen across all of their courses, but it still gives them some type of evidence-based information that they still have to interpret on their own.
That's awesome. I see a couple things in the chat, just putting out kind of the different ones we use. There are lots and lots of them out there. To answer the person in particular, I use ChatGPT, the free version, a lot to do basic things, but depends on what I'm wanting is which one that I use. Yeah, there's Copilot, there's Gemini, there's I forgot the one I was using the other day that'll pull references, like look for you give it a topic and it will find your randomized control trials, and it will list them in order of kind of importance and newness. So you can kind of do that. And so it's really hard to say. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, that my computer started talking to me because you were talking to it. My co-pilot started to talk to me because you said it.
Because I said its
Sorry.
name. I thought I was going crazy for a second, which wouldn't be the biggest thing. One of the things I would at least encourage all of you with AI, if you haven't used it, is start trying to use it in your day-to-day task of committee work or service work at the college. Let it help you and learn it yourself so you can see if it's something you want to use with your students. I'm not hearing anyone say that it's a huge issue, but we want to kind of tackle it and maybe teach them how to use that correctly and know it ourselves so we can know what to look for. But I'll say honestly, you can teach it to even write in your style. You can give it work prompts. You can give it enough where it will actually write kind of like you are, and all of you have enough writing where you can do that. So I'm happy to talk to anyone about it. I'm not an expert by any means. I've just saved a lot of time because I don't like to type and write. So a lot of dictation to speech and then cleaning it up with AI is used. So yeah, I used it to help to write my tenure statement. Yes, I did for sure. And I saw that. So I love that. I got one other thing here, and then we'll move to kind of the last question we have. Which one do you use for finding RTC, Jonathan? I'll put that in the chat. I can't pull up my email to remember which one it was, but I will include that into the links that I included with this recording. Which one I use? It was pretty nifty. I'm new to using it, but it's definitely helping pull articles quicker than what I can do. Was not Perplexity, something that started with a C. And I wish I could pull up my email right this second. Awesome. So I'm going to jump us to our next topic really quick. Give us a few minutes to talk about that one. And the last one is kind of what should students be getting out of lab courses related to exercise science? This was posed to us as a thing. I think Chris may start us off with a little bit of conversation there, but if anyone wants to jump in, what do we want students to get out of lab courses and how are we structuring those? Good things, bad things? What have we learned?
I was congratulating our colleague who got tenure because she used AI for that. I'm still impressed with that. I don't have much to add. This question came up when we queried the special interest group about topics for today. What do students get out of the lab courses? I think I could add, and I noticed this when I was a student in college as well. It seemed like people go to lab and they just want to get in and out as quickly as possible, just get the work done, collect the data, and just leave. And my students are doing that too. And I want the experience to be enriching from what they're getting out of lecture. And so I try to find ways to slow them down. I try to split them into groups and do things that allow them to cooperate and collaborate. But I have to admit, this is a big one for me as well. So I'll be quiet and see what other people have to say, chime in as I can.
I'll go ahead and start off here. Rochelle Kapler, co-chair and faculty at the University of Akron. One of the things that we realized many years ago was the same thing that Chris was discussing, is that students were literally in there and it was like all of a sudden they're speeding through wheels and they wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. So what we did is stopped focusing on the numbers and more on the actions and the practical and portion of it. So out of the 13 required courses, we have our JTAs that are assigned in for accreditation. 7 out of those 13 courses, we've actually implemented practical exams where at the end of the semester, you are required to show us your skills and not just watch the skills or watch the back of someone's head as they're doing the skills, since you have so many people working on something. So we can minimize it to as short as a 10-minute practical or as long as a 45-minute practical, depending upon the skills that we're trying to assess. But every single course that our JTAs for ACSM, for the exercise physiologist, are knowledge, skills, and abilities, right? So actual words that say demonstrate the ability to, we are treating it almost like athletic training competencies, and we're doing like checkoffs. So they have to show us how to do that. And when we require them and we're putting them on the hot seat to show us how to do it, I feel like it slows them down a bit and it allows them to increase their interest, because they're going to have to show us and not just turn in a paper for 25 points, etc. So less on numbers and content, more on actions and scripts, like what would they say, how would they react, those sorts of things.
Teresa Dilly with University of Missouri, Kansas City. I'm the coordinator for a small exercise science minor program. So my biggest problem is I don't have a lab. And so the course is set up where we meet once a week in the evenings. But I do try to spend half of that time with them engaged in some kind of activity. And they don't have that much coursework in exercise science. But lately, because I have the same problem, when I put them in groups, they just assign different tasks to different people so they can get the thing done instead of actually going through it. I find they're a little bit more engaged when they're actually doing assessments on each other. So last night we did muscular fitness testing, but I've tried lately to have them demonstrate to the class. So we did functional movement screens. So I just assigned each group a screen and then they had to teach it and demonstrate it to the rest of the class. And that seems to help a little bit. But again, I'm in a different situation because I have to really be creative in terms of not having equipment and space.
I appreciate what Michelle was saying about doing the practicals. I think it makes them more invested. I did that with my exercise testing course in the past and it went really well. Right now we're having the problem of admin wants fewer sections with more students. And so there's only, if we're doing a VO2 max lab and I've only got one bike and one oxygen mask, there's only so many things students can do besides just sit there and watch. And so I was just wondering if other people are having that same fight of arguing for lower student size so there's more participation and less watching.
I can tell you, we did that really early on. We were fortunate in that we capped our lab courses that students had a requirement for practical to about 20 per class, because that was doable.
I'm relatively fortunate where I am, excuse me, because we're a small campus. So my labs are typically, I would say, anywhere from 8 to 17 max. But I deal with what Teresa was saying with the lack of equipment. We're a small college with not a whole lot of money. And so I've got to be kind of creative with some of that stuff and find little grants here and there to find, basic testing equipment for an exercise physiology lab. But one thing that and I put this in the chat just in case people didn't see it, but one thing that I implemented this past semester in my exercise testing class is we started going into the community and getting them away from just testing each other, because they're all in my group. It's all student athletes that hang out all the time. And, it can get a little foolish in the lab sometimes when we're in there. And so to rein them in a little bit, I basically put it on them and said, guys, we're going into the community. So you need to have these down pat and being able to do what you need to do with members of the community. And this coming semester, we're going to actually open up our exercise testing lab to members of the community and allow them to come in and get body composition measurements, VO2 max testing, all these things so that they can have to do this on other people besides just their fellow students.
Doug, I think that's a great idea. I love the idea of them not just practicing on one another, because then they just sort of get a little complacent and kind of know what to expect. Different from you, Doug, I'm being asked to go up to 30 students in each of my X testing labs just because of workload. We've been trying to keep it at 24. Now, if it goes up to 30, we have to really be creative. Like you were saying, Amber, how do you keep them from just standing around? So we've tried to just have lab be very task oriented, where they have stations. So maybe they're not running the max test because there's a group of 5 already doing that. But then at one station, maybe they're interpreting data that doesn't look so normal. And at another station, they're calibrating equipment. So they're rotating and they have different tasks to do. I can't supervise all of them if I'm the only person in the room, but stations that are, things they can do autonomously and in smaller groups, because, and again, if you only have limited equipment, then you just, like you said, you don't want them all standing around. So maybe different stations with very different tasks to do. That would be a good thing to use AI for. I'm always using AI for like what to do with 30 students in a lab when I only have one blood pressure cuff, and then you get great ideas.
I love that idea of non-normal data interpretation, because we do have the same issue if they're just testing each other. We've actually moved to hybrid labs, and so the class is split in half. They come every other week, and on their off weeks, they're doing field testing on their own. So they come and do a VO2 max in class and then run a 1.5 miles on their own. Again, no supervision or oversight to that. So it's possible they're making things up, but they generally have to submit some type of data to verify it, because we have very limited lab space and just don't have the instructors to have them in class every week to teach that number of sections.
As it appears to a lot of what I'm hearing, I'm a Department of One, Ursuline College in Cleveland, Ohio. Something that I've been working on, and it still is building, is stations, just like the prior said. Specifically, an example would be for body composition, using a bod pod, using Tanita bioelectrical impedance scales, and calipers, and having students rotate through them instead of just the whole class watching someone do a bod pod test. So finding other ways to do the groups and cycling around has been tough based on the topics that are being discussed, but I've found that stations are effective.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for contributing. We're getting close to the kind of hour that we kind of set for this. We always want to be respectful of time, especially on Fridays, regardless of where you're at or how your weather is. I know some people have snow. Georgia, right now, it is honestly a nice sunny day outside. So hopefully I'll get to go at least enjoy it a little bit. But before we kind of end, is there anything else someone wants to discuss? But also I want to tell everyone, if you have a resource you want to share or something pops up over the next couple days, please email me at jhoward@highlands.edu, and I include it in a document that's going to go out with this recording.
I wanted to add one thing, just so since we're all here, if you haven't seen already, the 12th edition of the Guidelines of Exercise Testing and Prescription is starting to get out and about. Starting July 1st of 2025 is when the ACSM certification exams will go from the 11th edition to the 12th edition. So hot off the presses, get them now while they're hot. Also, ACSM has put out the document that is kind of like the crossroads document that's in between the 11th edition and 12th edition. And I'll make sure that Jonathan has that so that he can send that out in the materials as well. If you're not familiar, it basically says, this is what it used to look like, and this is what we've changed it to now, just in case you don't receive that all-important desk copy in time. So since that is such an important document, and we're already looking into fall semester, that way we can be ready for that when it comes.
I haven't seen any of it yet. Is it big changes are we looking at, or is it pretty standard, minor?
Minor, not as big as between 10 and 11,
Okay.
but not as small as between 9 and 10, I believe. That would be my opinion.
Okay.
Awesome. That was a great point. I'm glad you remembered that. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Feel free to, if you guys can hang out or want to hang out and talk a little bit longer, ask some questions. I'm here. I can stay on a little bit longer, but feel free to log off. We'll send out the recording. We'll see you in Atlanta. Make sure to email any co-chair nominations that you have and let us know if you have any questions or concerns for anyone on our co-chair team. We're happy to talk. I think I saw a hand up. Go ahead, Juliana.
Thanks, Jonathan. I just rotated off the Southeast ACSM Executive Board, and Doug is on the call. I know Kelly Massey, fellow board members and regional members are on the call. And we have a lot of conversations about bringing a special interest group to our region. And I met some resistance when I've brought this up while I was on the board, and I'm not really sure why. But we really want to push. Now I'm the strategic planning chair, so now I feel like I can really make it happen. But I'm wondering if anybody, other people's experiences with their regional special interest group, any tips to get it started, any ideas for getting that going?
I can tell you what we've done in the Midwest in the past. I'm not quite sure whether it's the exact same thing, Juliana, but I really like your question. We in Midwest before, we have had a slot of time very similar to what we do at National Hour, where we do like a mini SIG session. So particular interest is if one of the co-chairs is in your region, to have them chair the session, but if not, even to invite one of the co-chairs to speak for an hour or to at least give some insight about what's going on with that particular special interest group has been helpful to allow to have that little breakout session. It hasn't been wildly popular, but meaning, you know, the rooms aren't burgeoning, but the individuals that do come to those particular events do feel that their time was well spent because it keeps them well connected within their own region about that special interest.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering, is there a way that I can get access to members of this special interest group who are from our Southeast region? Is there a way of like kind of filtering the membership? So I could reach out to those people. I know I'm sure there's people who maybe aren't members of this group who would still be interested regionally. Maybe it would support the national special interest group, but can it be filtered that way?
So currently right now with what we're given, we can't filter by region. That's not given to us, but I would imagine because we do have a list of all the members, if we reached out to Heather, she could probably get us that information of who was in the Southeast or the Midwest and help kind of establish that and at least show the interest that may be at those regional meetings.
We get university
that.
affiliation, and so like we can see
yeah.
where Georgia is, and we can see where Massachusetts is. It just would be kind of tedious to go through that long list and figure out, you know, where everybody's at, but it's kind of doable.
That's right. That's a good call, Chris. And I'll email Heather and see if we can't get something. And if I've got to filter through it, it's Excel. I can build a formula. It'll filter.
Good call, Amber. Let AI do it. And Doug.
Yes, Amber, I like the way we think. I can do that easy.
Thank you for answering that question. I appreciate it.
Juliana, if it helps you too, the ACSM's at the national level, I'm a member of the Health Science Policy Committee. And because we can't get a lot done in Washington these days, we think we have better luck with state capitals. And so they're trying to do something where we start to involve the Health Science Policy Committee at the regional level. And so I'm still affiliated with Southwest, which is California. Lots of legislative opportunities there. And so what I did is I just asked the president if I could do submit a session. And so that was approved. And so now I'm going to have like at least half the people in attendance at that Southwest annual meeting probably attend my session. And so I think if there's a conceptual, a topical relevance that people are interested in, that really shows up beautifully with attendance and their interest that they express. And so we may end up with a Western Regional or a Southwest Regional Health Science Policy Committee. And but we started it on the basis of information that they needed to know.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Ask a question of the group that still remains. I could use some assistance if you have any thoughts. I've been trying to renew my national membership for like 3 weeks, and the website does not work. It keeps taking me to giving me the wrong membership category, and it doesn't give me any other options. I've called, left messages, I've sent emails, and the responses I get are just due to the new website and the high volume of communications they're receiving, they'll get to it as soon as they can. So I don't know what else to do.
I had
trying to get my money away and they won't take it.
Yeah, I had a colleague that went through the exact same situation and it was so frustrating for them. Yet just recently, did you get an email that said it was time for you to re-up?
I did get that.
Okay, so when I did that, I believe it had a link in it that was specific to me. And I thought it took me, and when that happened, it took me right to the spot and I was fine. But
Okay.
my colleague was trying to do it preemptively because he knew it was going to expire and he wanted to do it in conjunction with his signing up for the annual meeting, and it was a bit of a nightmare. So I know it's definitely, I've heard it's definitely been a nightmare. There's a lot
Well,
going
I'm
on
not the
over
only
there.
one. Okay.
You are
No,
not the only one.
Okay.
I was in a similar boat trying to redo it a little early, had some funds, things like that. And so I had to call. Now, I didn't get sent to a voicemail. I just waited on hold as I was doing work. And after 20, 30 minutes, someone answered and they were very responsive, couldn't help me after they dug into it for about 15 minutes. But I think by the end of the day, I had a phone call back from someone higher up that was able to help me. Um, so I haven't, that was maybe right as the website launched or something around there. So I would almost say if you've got time just to sit on hold and see if you get
Well,
somebody.
it
Or if
won't
it,
let you. It sends
oh,
you to a voicemail and says, leave a message. So you can't even stay on hold now.
okay. Gotcha. That doesn't help.
But no, well, thanks. I mean, that at least I know that it's not a unique problem. So, but Rachel, thank you. Maybe I'll try that one more time, see if I can't go find that original email referring to um, renewing your membership and try
Yeah.
that. I've tried as many different links to get into it. It all takes me to the same place where it just gives me one wrong membership category to um, register for.
Yeah, my colleague had the same issue. He's a fellow, and it was not giving him his fellow membership option. And so he was like, "Well, I'm not gonna re-up." And then once he did finally get it, they only gave him two credit card options, American Express and Discover. And it was like, dude, what are we doing here? So he really was frustrated too. It took
Okay.
him, I want to say 2 weeks plus to get that kind of ironed out. And then here I was over here just whizzing right through it and it worked fine for me. So good luck.
Okay, well, thanks. That's helpful.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Anything that you just want to discuss or anything like that? Awesome. Well, if not, know that we are here for you guys in any way that we can. So please let anyone know. But have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful time, and hopefully we will see you guys in Atlanta in about a month and a half.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, yeah. So I just have one question. So, as like information is very good today. So I teach exercise physiology and has a lab. I'm just kind of wondering, like, what's kind of like the standard ways that you have like labs and lectures. So currently we have like it's a 4 credit course for the students, and therefore 3 hours are kind of like the lecture twice a week, 75 minutes, and then lab is like 9 labs throughout the semester. So like kind of 1 week. So a lab would be like maybe 75 minutes, but sometimes it's split, which brings its own issues. So just the amount of time when you talk about again, when you run into issues of, let's say, a VO2 max lab, by the time you explain it all, you go through one, like the 75 minutes is done. And then you have 18 students like looking at you and the whole thing. So I just wonder like how much time do you have on labs, and like is it a double period always, and how many credits do you guys have for labs? What do you think the general is?
So we only have one class that has a separate lab where they literally have to schedule it separately onto their schedule, and that's our exercise physiology lab. That one is 2.5 hours, and it goes once a week for the 15 weeks. And the rest of them, the rest of the labs that we have are built into the coursework. So they would go, so if I'm doing in exercise testing, if I'm doing a max VO2, I would set aside 3 class periods, which were 75 minutes for max VO2. So it just really depends on what class it is, what skill it is, and what level. So if they're doing a max VO2, just viewing it or estimating it at the freshman level, then we're only going to do it for 1 day, and they're just going to be watching it being done. But then by the senior level, we're asking them to run one or participate it, to be the tester. And so we would allow more time. So it really just depends.
How many credits is that course?
All of our courses are 3 credits except the one individual lab course, which is only 1. It's a 1 credit course.
Wait there, that's 1 credit for the 2.5 hours per week.
Correct. For 15 weeks.
That's almost like taking a class. Like, you only get 1 credit for 3 credits. Like,
Yeah, it's old. It has been grandfathered and grandfathered and grandfathered. So I don't even think anyone has ever complained about it, but you're absolutely right. It's now we do have I guess you would say, let's say it this way. We have 4 weeks where they do not have lab. They don't have lab the week of tests. So it kind of works itself out.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I was just wondering like the time frame, because I know another gentleman there mentioned he says like on let's say the body composition lab. So if we have like all this stuff, the bod pod, the whole thing, like how long is that going to take to set up? I'm not going to set that up in 75 minutes to have stations that everybody can understand what to do within a 75 period. I would need like 2 weeks to do that, maybe like 4 labs, to explain each of the stations and then have them to go through each of the stations and then
Yeah.
an activity with the station. So I'm just
One of the things that I do to get to be very aware of their time is I will record things ahead of time, have them watch the recording, and then tell them to take notes on the recording and come prepared so that I don't have to spend a lot of time yammering. And then
Right.
one of the things that we do is we often have it running in the lab while they're in there, so that if they need to take a minute, stop and go look at what's on the monitor, then they can catch up with what's going on.
yeah, getting students to watch stuff and come prepared is like another whole conversation. So do you have any is that a quiz or you just expect, because like half the time our students show up, they don't know what to do, so then you can
Yeah, I tell them they're not touching the equipment. You're not touching my $60,000 metabolic cart unless you've watched the video, and that's all there is to it. Go sit in the hall. I'm pretty strict when it comes to you're not breaking my stuff. That's and maybe I'm mean, but yeah, I am.
I don't think you're mean, but I just think I'd be spending a lot of time just me looking at the students, them looking at me, and we're there.
Yeah,
How are we doing
I
today? I'm going, you should have
when
looked at their videos.
Yeah, on my learning management system, I can just see, did they watch it? And even if they just watched it and it watched them, I don't know. I just look, did they even watch it? And then I'm like, okay, come on in. If not, beat feet. Go watch it and then you can come later.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Good ideas.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Today was a good day.